Good evening, members. Before we start, we will just have the normal webcasting introduction, but I'd just like to remind everybody in the chamber to activate their microphones before speaking and obviously switch them off when finished. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet or filmed and will be capable of repeated viewing or another use by such third parties. If you are seated in the lower public seating area, it is likely that the recording cameras will capture your image, and this will result in the possibility that your image will become part of the broadcast. This may infringe your human rights and data protection rights, and if you wish to avoid this, you should move to the upper public gallery. Apologies, Laura?
Yes, Chairman, there are 3 apologies. Councillor Heather, Councillor Judy Jennings and Councillor McCready.
And substitute members?
Substitute members are Councillor Brooks for Councillor Jennings and Councillor Whitehouse, Councillor Janet Whitehouse on Zoom for Councillor McCready.
Thank you. Do we have any declarations of interest? Take that as no. Okay, move on to notes of the previous meeting, pages 5 to 8. Do we agree these? Thank you. Do we have any matters arising or outstanding? No?
No matters arising.
No. Well, that was easy, wasn't it? Right, tonight is James's show, I think, tonight. So,
Chair, sorry, terms of reference?
Oh, sorry, terms of reference and the work programme. I was just talking about that as well. I just noticed tonight when I was reading through it for the second time was the Epping Forest District market policy, which appears to be dated for tonight. I know it's not on the agenda, and as far as I can remember, that was considered by Cabinet in September. So,
It was considered by Cabinet in September.
So does the committee require to call that in? Or are we happy? You would like to see the papers? So just see the papers. Okay, Laura?
I'll make an action to circulate those papers.
And the other one we haven't fixed the date for is the local plan, isn't it?
Can't fix it yet.
Any comments from the floor? Richard?
Thank you. Another, just being a bit pedantic, was item 3, leisure services contract is obviously down for tonight, and on here it says 13th September and to be considered by Cabinet on the 17th of October. So the dates are wrong, that's all. But we're talking about it tonight anyway.
That's an update, isn't it? Because it's already gone through Cabinet now, isn't it? Part of that.
Oh, sorry.
No, the leisure services contract hasn't gone to Cabinet. I think that's to do with the contract variation for the new Epping Leisure Centre, and we anticipate taking that to Cabinet in the new year, either February or March.
Okay. Okay. The litter strategy, as we all know, that went through Cabinet, I think it was October. James has kindly offered to come back and give you all an update on that and see how we want to monitor it in the future. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Chair. Following previous Stronger Place Select Committee where I presented the litter strategy and we took on board members' feedback, and the litter strategy was refreshed and rewritten. So this report is a bit of an update on that, and to note that, it's been approved at Cabinet. So I just wanted to give a brief overview and some of the actions that we've implemented to date regarding the litter strategy. So the strategy has three aims: to change the behaviour of people who feel it is acceptable to drop litter through education and social media campaigns. We want to make it easy to dispose of litter and provide the appropriate facilities in the right places and collect litter in a timely fashion. And improve enforcement by exercising the council's powers to deal with anyone who drops litter. So we've begun to implement some of the actions to achieve the aims of the litter strategy. So we've begun to develop a waste communications plan where we're at regular social media posts. We're working closely with Essex County Council and Love Essex, so we're tied in with their social media campaigns and the images that we can use. We're planning recycling and anti-litter workshops at local primary and secondary schools. We have the ability to utilise a Dennis Eagle freighter, which part of it opens up so children can go inside and we can do some demonstrations. In terms of coordinating some of these events with the schools, we'll be working closely with the Youth Council. The waste management team are currently assessing, looking at the current contractual arrangements for weed spraying, and I know that there's been difficulties this year with weeds and kind of the lack of spraying and kind of the time of year it took place. So we're looking at how we can improve on that and the possibility of alternative contractual arrangements to implement the weed spraying. The area waste officers are also improving the monitoring and reporting of gum clearance from streets. We're also looking to extend the trade waste collection service to have more businesses as part of that. And we've been looking into the feasibility of QR codes on street litter bins. We're just looking at how easy it is to implement and what the potential cost implications of that, but that would potentially make it easier for residents to report on street litter bins. Happy to take any questions.
Floor. Councillor Bassett.
Thank you. Yeah, I've read this with quite a lot of interest because where I am struggles badly with littering, and that partial act is due to cars coming through, sitting at just throwing it out the window. They couldn't care less. And a little parade of shops where people stop, they eat some food, and again, it's all dropped out. Now, one of the things that we have done is we've got a very strong litter picking group, and the amount we pick every single time, and we're saying there must be more we can do about enforcement. Because these people, it would be good if we could report it a lot easier, and therefore they'll just get told, if you're this, we are watching notices saying if you drop litter in this area, you're more than likely to be seen and reported. Because I know it's difficult. You can't walk up to someone and say, can I have your name and address, please? But if they're in a car, you've got a registration plate, which makes it easy. And I've done that myself. I've reported where people have been throwing. So that was one area. The other thing is, in the rural community, we are really struggling with fly tipping. As fast as you clear it up, there's another lot been dropped in the same spot. We need to see a very substantial campaign again. We've done it several times in the past. Covert cameras on hard spots. Also I know from talking to people, if they get caught, the fine is, on here it says £400, but I know it can be a lot more than that if the Environment Agency considers it a major tip. But the Environment Agency seldom do anything. I think there was 6 enforcement officers in the east of England, so you're hardly likely to get them too involved unless it's sort of a 40-ton lorry load. So what can we do to really discourage the fly tipping. And I know the other problem has been with the county tips not taking builders' rubbish, not taking this, not taking that. And consequently, they're saying, well, where can I get rid of it? And they don't want to pay for it. So they just find a nice quiet lay-by and, you know, that's where it goes. And I know as I drive here quite a lot, you see it in some of the farmers' fields, just the entrances. It's just been dumped. So I'll start with those.
James.
Thank you. So I think in terms of, you're right, being proactive in terms of raising awareness that there is enforcement, so through social media and through campaigns. But in terms of, and our plan is that from a waste point of view, we want to work closer with Mandy Thompson's team and the enforcement team. So Mandy might want to come in. Mandy's on Zoom from an enforcement point of view on the fly tips.
Mandy, would you like to speak on that?
Thanks, James. Sorry, I put my hand up, but in picking up on some of the comments made by the councillor, the littering from cars is notoriously difficult. If anybody witnesses anything, witnesses an offence and has a registration number, if they could pass it to the team, that would be most helpful. We would need to take witness statements from anybody that witnesses it. So it does become quite difficult to enforce if people don't want to provide that sort of evidence. In terms of fly tipping, the reference that you make in the litter strategy to the £400, that's with a fixed penalty notice, which is what we can issue for an offence without going to court. It's an unlimited fine when we go to court for an offence, but unfortunately the courts do not always levy as higher an offence as what we can. In the last year, we've seen in the last 6 months, we are at just under 2,000 reported fly tips compared to 1,800 for the previous year. So it is on the increase. So the team are doing lots of different activities around safer streets. We've got some covert cameras, which will be concentrating in the rural areas. We have increased the issue of fixed penalty notices that we are giving for offences. From last year, for the whole of the 12 months, there was 13. And this year, for the first 6 months, we're already at 23. So, and that partly the reason for that is because the response that you get from the courts when they're found guilty is quite disappointing in terms of the levy of fines and the costs. So it's a much quicker remedy, if you like, of issuing that fixed penalty notice. So my expectation by the end of the year is that should reach maybe 50. So we're already increasing our enforcement action against fly tipping in that way. The issue is the reason why we've gone towards fixed penalties more than going to court is because the court time since the pandemic is extremely lengthy and quite difficult to get that court time. So it can take quite a bit of time to get somebody into court. So whereas the £400 fixed penalty is a much swifter consequence, for want of a better word. Any reports of fly tipping, we will investigate, but unfortunately, they're getting very clever in terms of evidence within the fly tips. So of those numbers reported, we would have. So for instance, I'm just looking at some figures now. For the reports this year, we've carried out so far 127 investigations where we found evidence, and they are ongoing and they can be quite lengthy in terms of following the trail of where the waste has come from. But just to provide some reassurance, the team is working extremely hard with lots of different projects going on around safer streets, covert cameras, and I would just encourage anybody that's got any intelligence or evidence to contact the team and to provide it for us to take take it forward.
Thank you, Mandy. Does that answer your question, Richard?
It does on that. The only other thing I was going to do was talk about the community litter pickers. It doesn't really emphasise the point, but they are so useful, and I know the ones in our village are out about every week or 2 weeks, and they get about 10 bags full every single time.
Yeah, no, we really recognise the importance of the voluntary and community litter picks. I think this year was the first year we ran litter picking awards, where as part of the Great British Spring Clean, we intend to do that this year, and we continue to provide any community litter pick that asks for litter picking equipment, gloves, high vis, the grabbers. We will supply that. We will help them with risk assessments as well, and we will make arrangements to get the waste contractor to collect the rubbish and that. So we want to build on the successes that already exist throughout the district, and part of the communications plan will be recognising the importance of litter picking community groups and all the good work that town and parishes do around that.
Okay, Richard.
One final little point, and I apologise, is dog fouling. We are seeing an increase in that. And, you know, it's not a nice thing to walk in, let's put it that way.
Yeah, again, I think we will kind of try and raise awareness, and I think kind of working with Mandy's team and kind of the work that the enforcement people are doing, it will be an area that we will try to tackle and improve.
Councillor Gould,
Thank you. Just like to say, it's a lot better than the first time that we saw this, so thank you very much for doing that. One thing I still think that we're missing a trick on is that we talk about monitoring it and key performance indicators, but we still don't have a by what. It's okay just saying we want to improve. By how much? What's our standard? What's good? What's bad? Is still missing. It's okay to say we just want to improve things, but if we started off really, really bad and we just get to below average, that's an improvement, but that's not where we need to be going. So that's my only thing I would add to it, but thank you very much for taking on board our comments.
No, thank you for that, and take on board your comments. And as we progress with things, we will look at having kind of a robust monitoring and a KPI. And I think I've mentioned to the chair that more than happy to bring this kind of back next year to kind of report to say where we are and everything.
I think that'd be a good idea. Councillor Whitehouse.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm substituting for Councillor Macready, so if I could ask her questions first and then answer mine. She did raise an issue about enforcement that's been discussed already. Her other point relates to bullet point 2 under section 1, the strategy, where it says to make it easy to dispose of litter, provide the appropriate facilities in the right places and collect litter in a timely fashion. She says that litter bins fill up at different rates, and some need to be emptied more frequently. I wonder, do you monitor, the use of the different bins? Do you have a variable collection rate of them?
Yeah, they're monitored by the area waste officers and by the waste contractors. So whenever a bin is 3/4 full, they are emptied. Obviously, some litter bins that are on busier high streets where there's greater footfall will fill up quicker than others. But the general rule is once they're 3/4 full, they will be emptied as soon as we're aware that they're 3/4 full. But I don't have any stats in terms of what locations are the ones that are more frequently emptied. But I'm sure the waste management team will have that.
So are you saying that some of the bins do get them more sort of frequent, are looked at more frequently than others because you know they're going to be the ones that fill up very quickly?
Yeah, those. So, for example, anything that anything in Epping High Street or Loughton High Street where there's shops and there's greater footfall, usually where there's any litter bins on a school run by a newsagent or a shop, generally fill up others. Ones in more rural locations that might not have so much footfall won't necessarily need emptying on a greater frequency, but it's all monitored by the area waste officers and for operatives. So whenever we're aware that they need emptying, they're emptying.
Okay, and if I could just ask my questions. You've got the appendices at the back of the report. I think it would help if you could indicate in the body of the report where the appendix is relevant. I mean, you've got the bits about penalties, which would be really useful to be put with the bit about, what penalties can be enforced. So if you could just think about putting it in, I just think make it more, bring the two things together a little bit more. I was surprised that under risk management, you put not applicable. And I just wondered if you'd like to comment on why you felt that this strategy didn't have any risk attached to it. I was also surprised to find that with the equality impact assessment, you'd both written it and signed it off, which doesn't seem to be good governance at all. And I just wondered why it wasn't, not saying it's necessary just you, but if this is the practice in the council for someone to write a report and sign it off, it looks as if it's something we need to look at because it just doesn't seem appropriate. And finally, page 26, the very last bullet point there, it says continue and extend the pilot of recycled wheelie bins for environmental champions to replace recycling sacks and reduce litter from bit bags split by vermin. I just don't understand it. If you take out the bit about environmental champions, it makes a bit more sense. But could you just explain, how it all fits together with these environment champions and who are they?
We've got a number of residents that have asked to have their recycling sacks replaced with a wheeled bin. So all their mixed recycling can go in one wheeled bin, so we've got several environment champions across the district that are trialling this, and because they basically prefer to have a wheeled bin rather than use recycling sacks. So
they're the environmental champions. It refers to those residents, does it?
Yes.
Right. So how does the van pick it up? Because the van that comes for our sacks is different, isn't it, to the ones that lift up the wheeled bins?
I don't know, to be honest, to be fair, guys. I just know that it is being collected. David Marsh is on the call and will probably have a better idea. So I don't know whether, David, you wanted to answer this?
Do you answer that, David?
Yes, Chair. The sacks lorries that are collected by what is called a low rave bar. So most of them have got a bin lift that can take any sizes from a 140 up to an 1100 litre. But that because of the low rave bar, they're suitable for collection of sacks as well. So these environmental champions that have got these wheel bins, and there's quite a few out there now, scattered across different parts of the district. Their bins can be picked up by the ordinary crews that come round.
Okay, thank you, that's helpful. And just finally, James, why did you think that there's no risk assessment to any of this?
Because it's a litter strategy, yeah, don't feel that there's no cost implications. We're just trying to improve. There are a few new initiatives that we're introducing, but they don't present any risk.
Okay, thank you.
Is that all, Councillor Whitehouse?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brady, I think.
Thank you, Chairman. If I could just pick up on Councillor Bassett's, all his very good points, which I didn't feel actually we don't feel we got a good enough answer. So if I could just go back again and ask a bit more directly on a few of them, of Mandy Thompson, the enforcement officer as well. Like Councillor Bassett, I'm in a rural area and it's absolutely constant, and now the clocks have changed. It's just going to really multiply, and it has already this last week. So the only thing that we think can possibly, there's only the only way we can possibly stop any of this, because they're on rural lanes, they're in places where people don't live, so we don't see who does it. We don't see the lorries. I've never seen the lorries do it, obviously, otherwise we'd report them. Is cameras. And I believe Mandy Thompson did talk about movable cameras for the countryside. So we are desperate. What is the situation of actually being able to rig cameras up temporarily at the main lay-by spots where the dumping occurs, etc.?
Yeah, fine. What I'd need to do is get some locations from you, and then we could do an assessment, a CCTV assessment. With the covert ones overt, the ones that people can see, you have to have lamp columns that have got power to them. And if it's in a country lane where there isn't any power, we need to look at the ones that we can effectively put into the ground, or sort of like put onto perhaps a telegraph column, something like that, where they've got a battery pack to them. So we'd need to do a survey of the area to see what would be suitable for us to be able to get cameras in. Happy to sort of have a discussion with you outside of the meeting with where those locations are that you're identified, where you're seeing more of a problem, and then we could have a look at seeing what we could do with that for you.
Thank you. That would be absolutely fantastic if that came about.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
But they are all away from sites of electricity, I'm afraid to say. My second question now for James is county tips, which again was what Ms Councillor Bassett said. We didn't get a positive answer there. We assume that still the status quo of it still being impossible for workers to take anything to tips. I think they have to get skips, don't they, and pay for them. Is there any sign of any rethinking of the policy here, please?
This is a Essex County Council issue, but David, have you got an update in terms of the...
Yes. Yeah, we with county and with the other districts, we are looking at household builders' waste, that residents who carry out work themselves have got a much easier access to dispose of such waste. However, the county won't change from their current policy in regards to the business waste, that builders will come along with waste, etc., because that waste needs to be paid for. It cannot be taken free of charge. It requires, legislation requires that trade waste needs to be paid for, and that includes builders' waste at the tips. But these tips that have been created by county, originally under the Refuse Amenity Act in 1976, are really to cover the residents that they have a place to take oversized or different type waste that won't be picked up by us as the collection authority. Business waste is a more complicated and more difficult area to deal with, which will require the businesses to make appointments, register the vans that they're taking in, and that is if county wishes to collect that waste. They're under no legal obligation to do so.
Yes, because the trouble is, obviously, I don't know if Councillor Bassett finds the same, but it's patently, obviously, the same people who are coming to the same locations, tipping again and again and again, toilets and this and that and the other. So it's not one individual householder who's done their own, transformation. It might be on some occasions, but generally speaking, they are small builders who are doing this and just dumping stuff. So I guess that's not really going to be helped very much. But I think any little help that there is in that direction would be gratefully received by local people. Right, so changing tack now to one minor thing at our end in our parish. I did ask Mr. Warwick before about the emptying of our bin that's been in our parish for longer than I have, so over 30 years. It has always been emptied, we assume, by Biffa and their predecessors, and now they have been refusing to empty it, and you sent me emails about it saying we would have to pay. Which is all a bit strange because I discussed it with other clerks, and say the clerk of North Weald says they've got lots of rubbish bins in North Weald, all of which are emptied by Biffa, all for free. So the strategy seems to differ all over the district. So some you're emptying for free, some you're charging. However, we are very keen in our parish that our one litter bin can be emptied, and we have tried to pay, and we've been trying to pay for the last 6 months, and still nothing's happening. It's still not being emptied, and we're still unable to pay for it. So the next line of emails from you, could you please be very specific about who we pay, how we pay, when we pay, and we'll get this wretched bin emptied. So that's the minor thing from our parish. Just seems ridiculous and it's ongoing. And then my other comment, again following on from Councillor Bassett, but where I noticed most of the rubbish, which I have said in previous years when I was on this committee, is motorway roundabouts and slip roads. I know the motorways themselves are the highway agency, and it's up to them. And some motorways are cleared and some are an absolute disgrace in this country. But the actual roundabout, could you tell me who, because I believe it is us, and I believe the last time we got the Harlow roundabout tidied up, it was our area. Could we just confirm that approach roads to slip roads that go onto motorways and the roundabouts are the local authority's job to keep clear? And if so, they're absolutely filthy generally, because again, cars are stopping all the time at all the traffic lights, and people are just lobbing stuff out of the window the whole time as they seem to slow down. Thank you.
David?
Yes, yes, Chair. The actual roundabouts that are at the end of the motorway slip roads, like if you take the Waltham Abbey junction, there's 2 roundabouts there. We, as the principal litter authority, will deal with the actual roundabout. What we won't deal with is the slip road, because that comes under the jurisdiction of Highways England and the motorways. So any mess that's on the slip roads, and I have seen this for myself, actually falls under Highways England and their schedule for cleansing these slip roads. No matter if it's M25 or the M11, that's on our on our patch, but we will deal with problems on the roundabouts, and some of the roundabouts can actually be quite dangerous, like at junction 7 of the M11. So we have to take special precautions before we can let manual workers onto that roundabout. But I'm afraid the slip roads fall under the jurisdiction of Highways England, and they won't be too happy if we started wandering down on what they class as motorways, etc., to try and carry out any of these type of works there. So we do the roundabouts, but we don't do the slip roads.
So could I make a special request in that case that you remind Highways England about the slip roads, because they are actually the worst. I don't know what other people feel. They're literally a no man's land that Highways England have conveniently forgotten to do, and we're not allowed to, because I'm not, I understand that, that's quite right. But could you please send them a message reminding them that the state that they're in, please, because it does look pretty awful. And I think it encourages people to throw more out. That's also another problem. I think if it's not cleared, then people just think, well, what's one more plastic bottle to add to the dozens of plastic bottles? So if you wouldn't mind, if other people are agreed on the committee, I would quite like it if you could just give them a reminder, please. Thank you.
Yes, I will do that.
I've just got one question, actually. One of my parish councils in my ward have had 3 large fly tips in the last 4 or 5 months. The last one being reported in September and was only removed a few days ago. And that was a very important one because A, it was asbestos, and secondly, it was right next to where there was a civic event going on during that period of the remembrance of the Willingale airfield. I just wondered, what is the clean-up time period and how long they have to wait?
Yes, Chair. With there's really 2 types of fly tips that you're going to get on the highway. You're going to get non-hazardous waste, which is just general waste, and it can be like bed bases, furniture, and food waste, etc. That can be cleared relatively quickly, and that can be taken to the Harlow transfer station that's run by Essex County Council as the Waste Disposal Authority. When we go into hazardous waste, we've got a number of different concerns with that. All of these fly tips are obviously need to be checked out by enforcement to see if they can find who the perpetrator is. But when we get into hazardous waste, we have to call in a specialist contractor. And these specialist contractors will dispose of the waste themselves in most cases. That means we have to get permission off of Essex County Council, and we have to acquire what is called a DIS number to claim back the disposal costs that we will pay as a local authority from Essex County Council. We had an email from Essex County Council last week saying that they are moving on the DIS numbers, but at the moment they're having problems with the amount of work that they've got at the current time. So I would be interested to see to get more details of that fly tip, because I would like to follow the timeline through to see if there is anything that could have been learnt from that. But because we're not a unitary authority, we do not have the authority to dispose of waste without Essex County Council. And the only real exception to that is recycling. Recycling isn't really classed as waste for disposal, it's waste for reprocessing or reuse, and we can make our own arrangements on concerning that.
I think one of the points there is that the longer it's there, it's an advertisement for more people to dump waste there. and that's what happens. The pile gets bigger because it's there for a long time. But I understand what you're saying about Essex, and I do understand what you're saying about asbestos, but it is a dangerous waste, and we don't want children playing with it and things like that. And that's why I feel there is a problem, and these things should be dealt with a lot quicker.
Yes, Chair, I'm quite happy to arrange the collection without receiving the DIS number from county, as long as my colleagues in accountancy understand that a county might turn around and say, we're not paying for that.
Okay. Well, I think that almost ties this one up. I'd like to say, James, I thought the second document was a lot better than the first, and you took on board the points raised at the last scrutiny meeting by place. I understand this is an ongoing document and we'll keep things. So I think it'd be a good idea for it to come back again, because I think there's some valid points been raised. Yeah. Is everybody happy with that? Yeah. Thank you. That takes us on to the leisure service contract update, pages 37 to 40. And again, we've only got a note and comment on this.
Thank you. So Epping Forest District Council appointed Places for People Leisure as its partner for the development and management of its 4 leisure facilities. The agreement commenced in April 2017 and is a 20-year design, build, operate and maintain contract. The four leisure centres, I'm sure you're aware, we have as part of this contract at the beginning of the contract, Places Leisure built a new Waltham Abbey Leisure Centre, so a new swimming pool, gym and exercise studios. So we have a facility in Waltham Abbey, we have Epping Sports Centre, we have Ongar Leisure Centre and Loughton Leisure Centre. The contract is managed through monthly leisure contract manager meetings where performance and delivery of services is discussed in accordance with the contract, and it's an opportunity to speak to Places Leisure about any issues, any maintenance issues, and generally how things are going. And outside of that, Amelia, who manages the leisure contract on our behalf, meets kind of on a regular basis and is in communication on a regular basis with Places Leisure. In addition, we have a leisure management contract partnership board that provides strategic oversight and any challenges over the contract, and it provides effective dialogue and resolution of any issues at a senior officer level and a member level. And some of the members here tonight are part of that partnership board. There's KPIs which Places Leisure report through the partnership board, and then we then report through overview and scrutiny. So I believe overview and scrutiny is next week. So the latest KPI data were there. So the report contains the KPIs that we report on, and there's 3. One is fitness memberships, so that's the gym memberships, and as you see from the figures, the gym membership has still not returned to pre-pandemic levels. They are increasing, but they're still some way off of what they were pre-pandemic. And some of the centres, due to kind of the size, the amount of equipment, their gym memberships are larger than the others. So in particular, Loughton Leisure Centre and Waltham Abbey Leisure Centre, their gym memberships is strong. The other KPIs are swim membership and swimming lessons, and swimming has really bounced back from pre-pandemic, and probably because it's one of the few activities that people could actually do in their own home unless they were very fortunate. So Places Leisure have always run a very successful swimming lessons, and they continue to thrive at the centres, and as does swim membership. Slight issues at the moment with swimming lessons in terms of Places Leisure. Like many industries, they are struggling with recruitment, so training, actually recruiting swimming teachers and then investing in their training. So it's one of the things that we're working closely with Places Leisure to help them with any opportunity or any way that we can through the links that we've got with the Community Hub and DWP and job coaches. We will be working with Places Leisure to make sure the opportunity is out there to residents. If they want to become swim teachers, they can, and that. But Councillor Brooks is well aware of the challenges, particularly at Loughton Leisure Centre, that we've had recently with swimming lessons and enough swimming teachers. We receive a monthly management fee for Places Leisure to run the facilities, and again, that's we pick that up through our monthly meetings with Places Leisure. During COVID, we had open book reconciliation, and there were several financial support payments made to Places Leisure. However, we've returned throughout from the beginning of this year to the Places Leisure are paying a management fee as per the contract, and we kind of continue that close relationship and close monitoring to ensure that we receive maximum kind of benefit from the contract. I think the biggest risk that the leisure industry are facing at the moment, unsurprisingly, are energy costs and the rise in energy costs, which presents a significant challenge throughout the industry. There are reports of local authority swimming pools closing. I'm aware in certain areas where a decision has been made where the pools will close for the winter, because the local authority and the contractor can't afford to run the pools. The view is that they'll review that in spring, I think with the view to reopening. Pleased to say we don't have those issues at present, largely due to the good housekeeping that Places Leisure have got at the facilities, in trying to reduce the level of energy consumption. So I think, for example, if a fitness exercise studios a class is finished is not being used, they'll make sure the lights go off straight away. Simple things like that. Simple things around how they can reduce their electricity and gas consumptions. They've got good business management systems, monitoring. Obviously, the biggest cost will be in terms of the swimming pools, heating swimming pools. So we're avoiding as much as possible to tinker around with pool temperatures, because we know once you start that, we will receive complaints from residents. But we've kind of got we've introduced variable speed drives on the pool pumps, which will reduce it, and we've looked at and installed LED conversions at all the centres. We are looking at further things, such as pool covers at Waltham Abbey and Ongar to retain the heat, which will make a difference. So they're kind of work in progress that we're doing. Places Leisure has also got an energy cap a grant from the government, which is in place till the end of March. The uncertainty is for all of us, I think, is what happens beyond that. There's no indication that there'll be a further cap or for further funding. But at the moment, Places Leisure, we're working with them and doing all we can. So it's manageable at the moment, but it's one that we will keep a close eye on in terms of the rising energy costs. And then the final part of the report is just a bit of an update really on the new Epping Leisure Centre, which we're extremely excited about. So Qualis are making good progress on the multi-storey car park at Cottis Lane. Once that's completed and some of the development to St John's Road, we will be able to start construction on the new Epping Leisure Centre. We anticipate that to be Q3 next year. So we're anticipating hopefully September time to start construction. We're out to procurement at the moment for a contractor to build the leisure centre. We expect the tenders to be submitted early December. We will assess. That will give us the idea of the cost, and then the plan would be to take a report to cabinet early next year for award of that contract. Happy to take any questions, and Amelia's here also from the leisure point of view.
Okay, councillors, committee. Councillor Brooke, did you have a question first? I thought you raised your hand right early on. Okay, who wants to go first then?
You know me, I always have something to say. This one is, obviously with the current economic climate, are we anticipating a drop-off of numbers, or I know the pricing we have on our centres is a lot better than some of the other commercial. Are we actually seeing people that still want to do it come over to us?
We do anticipate that there will be a drop-off. We're not. It's difficult. Over the previous quarter was the summer period, so there is generally, in terms of gym membership, seasonal change that some people do stop their gym membership during the warm months anyway, and holidays and exercising outside. So it's difficult at the moment to say the drop in gym memberships over the last quarter, whether that is due to the rise of cost of living. It's something that we will monitor closely with Places Leisure. And also we are working very closely with Places Leisure to ensure that the price of memberships and costs of using the facilities is kept competitive. And I'm sure Councillor Brooks might want to come in at a minute, that we do often. So the Leisure Management Partnership Board gives councillors the opportunity to robustly challenge Places Leisure on their pricing schedule. At the moment, it's challenging because of the rise in energy costs and the costs of running a facility, and not overpricing, so people stop using the facilities. And please say, at the moment, we're not seeing a significant drop in people using the facilities, and like I've mentioned, swimming has bucked that trend and is increasing. I anticipate over the winter we may see, but I don't anticipate people stop using the facilities in significant numbers.
So just second part, you know me. One of the things you mentioned was the difficulty in getting staff, same as lots of other companies. Are we perfectly happy that there'll be no health and safety issues, especially where you talk about swimming, lifeguards and everything else, people get into trouble for a number of reasons?
Yeah, we're confident that that won't happen because, like I've said, we're in regular dialogue with Places Leisure. They keep us informed of things, and I made reference to the challenges Loughton Leisure Centre had with swimming teachers, and recently they cancelled swimming. The issue was they cancelled the swimming lessons because they didn't have adequate number of swimming teachers. So they're not just running lessons with in where there be multiple classes with one teacher. They've Places Leisure are aware they need to stick to strict guidelines and kind of from the national governing bodies and everything. So we're confident that they do, and we're confident that we can support them in recruiting people as well.
Councillor Brady.
Well, again, my questions are following on from Councillor Bassett's. We haven't talked beforehand. Mine was, yes, you said that you were short of swimming instructors, but I assume you're not short of lifeguard, or they are not short of lifeguards, because they're two entirely different things. So I was assuming that the swimming pools are still open for the same number of hours for as many people as possible to go in, and it's only some of the lessons that are being cancelled and not the hours of use, because otherwise that would be ridiculous.
Sorry, that is the case, isn't it, Amelia? Yeah, it is just the lessons. I think, they're constantly looking for staff and training lifeguards up and that. So, but we haven't had any instance where the operational hours of the swimming pool has been compromised.
Second question, which does concern me, that obviously swimming pools are tremendously expensive things to run and heat. I'm horrified that you don't already have covers on your pools, because those of us that do have our own cover the day they fill the pool up with water to keep the costs down. So I would, encourage you to sort these flipping covers out. It doesn't take that long to get cover for a swimming pool. If you still haven't actually got any, I would suggest that they make quite a lot of difference, as far as I understand, for the escaping of heat and thus money. But what I am most concerned about is that the cost of heating 3 pools. Now, have we got enough swimmers for these 3 pools? And I don't really understand where this 4th pool is coming from for Epping. This is shutting the stable door after the horse has bolted, because I understand we're definitely getting this swimming pool, but it concerns me enormously that you're worrying whether we can keep 3 pools open due to cost of heating, and now we're building a 4th. And also we've got this number of people in the district who are using these 3 swimming pools. Have we got loads of extra people suddenly, or there's suddenly going to be some people in Epping that never went near a swimming pool that was in Loughton or Ongar? Or are we just totally relying on the new housing that's coming into the district and the new people that's with it? Or is it with this thought in the back of people's mind, which was the original master plan a couple of years ago, to close down Ongar as soon as Epping's up and running?
So a full viability and feasibility was done on Epping, the new Epping Leisure Centre, and we're confident that there are the demands there. There's waiting lists on the swim lessons at the moment. We know the district swimming club want more pool time. We know that there is the demand there. The intention is not that a new swimming pool in Epping will then replace the one at Ongar. We invested during the, I think, 1.3 million in Ongar Leisure Centre during the pandemic to extend and ensure that the lifespan of the leisure centre was another 5 to 6 years. So in the next couple of years, we will need to revisit what what happens with Ongar Leisure Centre and what are our options. But at the moment, the intention and the contract we got for Places Leisure is for 4 facilities and the new one with the swimming pool, when we're confident that there are enough swimmers and enough people out there.
Councillor Paxley?
Hi, I'd just like to add to that, just on the basis that I have a 10-year-old who we have been now on a waiting list with Harlow for over a year, and I chase regularly just purely on the basis the pool is much bigger. They have over a 2,000 child waiting list in Harlow, so we're now at Waltham Abbey. I know friends who go to Ongar now that were in Harlow previously before COVID, so I personally think that on that basis it shouldn't be a problem.
Councillor Allgood?
Yes, thank you. If we're trying to recruit as many people to use these facilities as possible, because that would make the cost a lot better, I'm obviously more aware of Loughton has its car park. I went to a meeting the other day and they sort of objected to the fact that it's now gone to the district-wide principle of when the times are. So I suggested that basically why don't we offer the incentive a bit like Sainsbury's do, where they refund the parking ticket. I'm not saying that, you know, we're paying them £5 if they're going to put an 8-hour charge on it, but I think up to a 2-hour for the use of would encourage a lot more people to go, and surely it must be more beneficial to get people in rather than just saying it costs £2, so that's not a consideration.
I think the council's in a precarious financial situation, and that wouldn't help in terms of our car park income. It potentially could have there's a significant cost, not to Places Leisure, but to the council in implementing that. Amelia, from your point of view, because Amelia, as well as being managing the leisure contract, manages our car parks.
Thank you, James. I think it's the same issue with the financial situation, but I think it would be worth probably exploring the numbers and seeing what that would mean, and maybe to have a more informed decision and explore that a bit further. But it's the main kind of concern about, obviously, finances and impacting the council's income.
Yes, come back.
Okay, so if it's £1 for the car park, £10 to get into the swimming pool, I'm struggling to work out why £9 difference is a cost loss. If you get 50 more people come, then surely you've got that money back. Surely we're going for the win. I appreciate budgets. I appreciate car park fees and something like that. But this is about trying to get as many people in as possible. Possibly during the winter, we're going to look at it as a warm place for people to go. I don't think we should be trying to hinder people under the principle that we're all struggling. I think you'll be getting more people and you get your money back.
Thank you. Technically, we don't get our money back because we're on a fixed sort of management fee. So if there's more users for the leisure centres, for example, the council doesn't get that money back. So that was why I sort of initially made the comment about it impacting the council's income. But I'm definitely open to kind of exploring the numbers and seeing what it could mean. But essentially, that's the kind of main concern.
And quite interestingly, Ongar is a free car park. I must say, I think the refurbishment at Ongar has made a big difference, and the place has started to come alive again. I think it is also due to good management there, but it has come alive in the last 6, and the reports about it are really good.
Waltham Abbey is also free.
And Waltham Abbey is also free, is it?
Yeah.
Do you think once Epping starts, it will take business away from the other 3 pools? Because it's new?
Potentially it will, because I think Waltham Abbey probably took some away, but I think I don't think it will take a significant number away from the centres now.
Councillor Brooks, did you want to come back now?
Thank you. I'm aware that Mr. Warwick and Amelia have enough of me to deal with off camera, so I didn't want other people to have the chance to say things. Just to say, I know it's a very emotive subject, the swimming pool and how much it costs. And I think, as James has emphasised, the costs of heating are going to be 3 times as much for Places Leisure at the pools in the next few months. And the worrying time is actually after April. I personally would hate to see us, because of all the studies are that there are so many children leaving primary school and will be next year that can't swim 25 metres. And that isn't a distance that is going to save your life. It's interesting that some company has taken to basically taking what's little more than heated paddling pools with a marquee, Elite Sports. There was an article in the Times that many of you might have seen a couple of weeks ago. And quite a few schools, even in Essex, are importing these for 6 weeks or so, trying to do a crash course. They supply the instructor, the lifeguard, the chemicals, and they come for about 6 weeks, and they usually do lessons for year 4, so they can all get swimming. And because they say it's cheaper than transporting them, paying their own teachers at the local pool. I think they've seen an amazing business opportunity, but really it is much, much, much better for children to learn at a proper pool. And as Mr. Warwick knows, my issue has been that they have put the price of the swimming lessons up twice in the last few months. You say this is only £2, but actually £2 if you've got 2 or 3 children on a direct debit. It does add up with everything else going up, and I think it should be something that we look at carefully, that we don't put that up absolutely unnecessarily. Partly because the parents have moaned to me that they've put the price up, but we're getting our lessons cancelled. But there is this great shortage of swimming teachers, but they are trying to address that. They are training. In January, we think the situation will be better in Loughton. Waltham Abbey has been saved quite as many problems that we've had in Loughton. But they should have some new swimming teachers trained up, and it should have more consistency and fewer merged lessons, because they've had to do that as well, really. But this is a most important skill and also an excellent exercise. And when Councillor Brady mentions, will we have enough people? Quite a lot of people who get on to me are actually driving from Redbridge or Woodford to come and swim in Loughton, because they're so short of water space over in particularly in Redbridge. Yeah, anyway, thank you.
Okay, I think we've discussed that a lot. I think there's lots of important notes come for James to take away again. Yeah. And I think the next one is going to be the interesting one, an update on the waste. Pages 41 to 44.
Thank you. So this is a similar update to the leisure management contract update. So I think you're aware that we've currently got a contract with Biffa Municipal Limited for the delivery of waste, street cleansing and processing of dry recycling services. This contract's due to expire in November 24 after an initial period of 10 years, and there is the option in there to extend by a further 10 years by mutual agreement. And similar to the leisure contract, this contract is managed through monthly manager meetings and a waste management partnership board, which, like the leisure management partnership board, provides the strategic oversight and provides an opportunity for effective dialogue at a senior officer and member level. Again, everyone's aware that the contract over the last 10 to 11 months has suffered unprecedented levels of miscollections. Officers and members have continued to work closely with Biffa to reduce this and stop the number of miscollections. In August, Biffa's commercial director and regional manager came in August to meet informally with Cabinet to discuss the issues, to provide challenge and hear what BIFA are doing to improve the service delivery. Just very briefly, because I know a lot of this has been covered previously, but multiple factors are affecting the miscollections. Predominantly it was shortages of staff. However, BIFA have made kind of a further investment, and there was a GMB national agreement that was applied in August and backdated. So it's still an issue, but it's not, the driver shortage and loaders is not the main factor. I think the main factor at the moment is the age of the vehicles and the breakdown of the vehicles. I think last week and this week we've seen a particularly poor performance, and after a small period where collections, the miscollection was improving, it's kind of deteriorated this week and last week. Again, the regional director and commercial director from BIFA came in last week to meet with myself, a strategic director, and our portfolio holder, again, to try and understand why the issues are still occurring and hear what BIFA are doing. Just some of the things, the investments, improvements BIFA have made. They've updated their white space to try and improve the monitoring and reporting. Their overheads have been increased to create a new role which will provide operational support to the contract. And they've made replace some of the vehicles and continue with a full refurbishment program on their vehicles. So we're in the waste management team and myself, we're in constant conversations with BIFA. We are applying pressure. We're exercising every power that we've got through the contract to try and improve the current situation. And I think a paper went to Cabinet in October. We failed to reach a mutual agreement with BIFA in terms of the extension, and kind of due to current issues, a paper was put to Cabinet to recommend that we run a full procurement process for the new contract, and that was agreed and approved. So officers have begun. We've started the process of that. We've had a number of market engagement meetings with potential waste contractors to discuss to gauge their level of interest, any potential issues, what they'd like to see in the contract, how it could work. They've all been extremely positive. On last night, a Cabinet report was approved to establish a waste management portfolio holder advisory group, and that group will provide support and advice to the current challenges that we're faced, but also support on the procurement of a new waste and recycling contract. We're also looking at the feasibility of having an EFDC-owned depot, because that will make a huge difference to any future contract, and it will provide considerable resilience and business continuity if we have our own depot, which we don't have at the moment. So feasibility study has been concluded, and a Cabinet report should be going in December with the recommendations and the next steps around the depot. But happy to... one final point. Kind of conversations prior to this meeting with the chair, that if this group and if members are happy, some members probably have already been on the visit, but in the new year I'm happy to arrange a visit to Edmonton, to the mixed recycling facility there. We have done it previously, and members have really benefited going there, seeing kind of how the recycling's processed, but also kind of getting an opportunity to meet with the directors of BIFA and speaking to it. So it was brought up before, so I'm more than happy to do that. Happy to take any questions.
Okay. One thing I was going to ask you, James, I noticed in there's the pilot scheme for the new wheeled bin. That will actually mean that the blue current glass bin will disappear, is that right?
Yeah, so I think this relates back to a point Councillor Whitehouse raised earlier in terms, so we have a number of environment champions that wanted a blue lidded bin instead of recycling sacks. So we've got throughout the district over 100 residents are part of that. We've also identified a complete recycling round in Thaden Boyce, which we're in the process of starting a pilot with that. So on the properties on that road have, if they haven't already been contacted, Councillor Phillip might know a little bit more than me. If they haven't been contacted, they will very, very shortly, with the opportunity to have a blue lidded wheel bin instead of the recycling sacks. Our plan is, ideally, we would like to get over 1,000 properties across the district involved in this, just to see how it works. With the environment champions at the moment, they all have been extremely positive, and they like the wheel bins. The advantage is all recycling goes in the container, including the glass, so you can get rid of the blue box for glass. A decision hasn't been made to implement this throughout the district. It's one of the things that we are looking at. It will be one of the things that the portfolio holder advisory group will look at. It will reduce the cost of the recycling sacks, but we also know that the nature of our district is not one size fits all. So we know that that there will be residents that do not want a wheeled bin, or they just can't. So we will be looking at solutions as around that. But this is just a trial at the moment to see how it goes, and to see if recycling rates increase. Of a part tied in with this, we're also producing a video which we hope that we will put on social media channels and hopefully have on our website, to just demonstrate how people can use the recycling bin and break down the recycling, and kind of break down some of the myths that there might be surrounding it.
Councillor Phillips, did you want to come in on that?
Yeah, it's just synergistic perhaps. I was actually speaking to the parish clerk on exactly this subject earlier on today and giving him a heads up that it was on the way. I know from Mr Marsh that there's going to be a bin hanger coming out with the details of the trial, which will be hung on the bins very shortly. Worth saying that I've already signed up. I don't think it's fair that I ask the residents to trial things if I don't sign up as well. So I have signed up for the trial and looking forward to seeing how it goes. I'm fairly sure that the village will be keen to take part. And the part that Mr Warwick didn't mention, of course, is the significant cost we pay each year on the recycling bags. If we if we can reduce that, that is a significant saving for the council. Which, as long as the bins work sufficiently well to keep our recycling rates up, then I think it looks like a positive situation. But as he said, it's not one size fits all for the whole district, because there will be some places that may struggle with the third wheelie bin. Some of them struggled with the second wheelie bin, but there's a good number of places where that probably should be all right.
Thank you. Councillor Whitehouse, you were the next.
Thank you, Chairman. On page 42, the last bullet point of section 8, there's reference to a trial for narrow access. I wondered if Mr. Warwick would say a bit more about that. And also, it mentions problematic Garwood vehicles. I wondered what a Garwood vehicle was and what the problems were.
I asked you that the other day.
Unfortunately, David Marsh, I don't think he's on the call at the moment, and that. So the narrow access, I will get back to you in terms of where it's actually, what locations is the narrow access are being trialled in. But yeah, the narrow access, I think we've got 4 or 5, or I should say BIFA have got 4 or 5 narrow access vehicles that are required for areas, some of the rural areas where the lanes can be quite narrow, but also some of the more urban areas where they might be Victorian terrace roads where there's parking both sides of the street. So I think the Garwood vehicles are the current narrow access vehicles that BIFA have got, but they've been problematic in terms of breaking down or not, things going wrong with the vehicles in terms of the mechanical operations of them and that. So they're bringing in a different narrow access vehicles, but I can provide more details for you tomorrow if that's all right, Councillor Whitehouse.
Okay, yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehouse. Councillor Brady.
Yes, if I could ask Mr. Warwick, so I obviously don't really fully understand this. So if we change the contractor, do they ever want to alter the way that recycling is collected, what they collect or how it's collected? Or how much does the authority tell the contractor exactly what they want? That's my first question.
We tell the contractor. So we're in the process of reviewing the current service specification, which lays out what BIFA are supposed to do, how they collect recycling, and the frequency. So it's within our gift to specify.
Okay, so that's all dependent on how it's all sorted at Edmonton, I assume, to satisfy them, yes. And then my second question, as always, again, which is something which I've been going on about for years because it distresses me, is it the government that pays you for dragging great big heavy bins of soaking wet grass clippings around the place? Because surely you can't actually make a profit if it wasn't subsidised by the government on, you know, putting everybody's grass cuttings and sticks and things in a big heap and, you know, letting them, I don't know, mulch down or whatever. Surely that's a huge loss-making thing, and it's so heavy and it's so environmentally bad that, you know, a lot of other districts charge for collecting garden waste, and I just find it amazing in this day and age that in our rural areas particularly that we are paying people to drag all these huge great big bins of grass cuttings, whereas over the years before we all composted them down in the back garden if you're in a rural area, and it still can be done, and it is done in other areas of the country, and they pay for collecting heavy garden waste. Thank you.
Unfortunately, we don't get paid. We don't get paid from the government to collect garden waste. In terms of, so we are aware some authorities do not charge like ourselves, but we know our neighbours like Harlow, they have a subscription for the to collect the garden waste. It's something that the Waste Management Portfolio Holder Advisory Group will look at it. So it is an option that we can potentially put in the new contract, but I would caveat that if the Environment Bill gets implemented at some point in the near future, the recommendation of the Environment Bill is that food and garden is collected separate and free of charge.
Want to come back?
Okay, yeah, it's just that, yes, because again, other areas collect the food separate from the garden, don't they? You know, they don't charge, no district would charge for collecting food waste, but they would charge separate for the garden. It's just that I think if you're looking for areas to save money, to me, I see that would be a huge saving in manpower, in fuel, and everything else. Because, you know, we didn't have it before, we do have it now, it doesn't seem necessary. I thought the government paid you per weight of recycled stuff, material, and if they're going by weight, you know, one great big green thing weighs a huge amount compared to the few sacks of plastic bottles. Am I mistaken here then?
Yeah, we don't receive an income from the garden waste. Yeah, so there is an option to separate food and garden and charge for garden. However, there are initial costs with that because you're going from one container to two containers, so there will be capital costs of paying for another container, and also residents would have another container as well because there'd be a garden and a food one.
I think Councillor Phillips wants to come in on that one as well.
Yes, I've got to try and keep this fairly quick. I understand where Councillor Brady is coming from, but I know a significant number of our residents really appreciate it. It's valid if you've got a huge garden that can have lots of space for a compost heap. That's not the case for all gardens by any stretch of the imagination. It's not necessary for any resident who doesn't want to have their garden waste collected to the large green bin. We've got external food calories that can be provided instead. So there is the option to opt out of it. You don't have to do it. But for a significant number of residents, I know it's something that they do actually value.
Councillor Bassett, I think, was the next one on the list.
Thank you. Only two questions. First one, I see Broxbourne is going to 3 weekly collections. Nothing like that is proposed for us because I've already had the questions because I butt on to Broxbourne.
It's an option.
So is a month.
Yeah, there is another local authority that I'm aware of, but it escapes me that is going to go to 3 weekly. It's an option. I don't think it'd be particularly popular with residents or members. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
And Councillor Allgood.
Sorry, can I come with the second part?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Didn't realise you'd got to.
Yeah.
Should have done.
I did say at the beginning.
Right,
the other thing was where we're talking about missed collections. One of the biggest issues I had was a big area of my patch got missed. I immediately put in a call saying you seem to have missed the whole as the trunk had broken down or whatever, and put in an official call and got you'll get a response in 10 days, which didn't do me any favours because I then had about 40 residents phone me to say when are they going to come and take the recycling waste? Should we leave it out? Are they coming tomorrow? Are they not? It would be very useful is if we know we've got a big miss, someone lets the district councillors know and what the solution will be, because otherwise we get a bad reputation. Oh, it's just missed and they've just left it. Whereas at least with our own social media in the area, we can say, sorry, the trunker broke down or whatever. If you leave it out, it'll be collected, or it'll be collected next year. A week later it finally got collected. But it will make life so much easier on yourself with complaints, and also a lot better for us than my phone bill.
And the switchboard time.
No, I fully agree and take on board that it's one of the areas that we're looking to address and improve on, in terms of once a miscollection's reported, having a time scale to give to residents and members of when it will be collected. Unfortunately, it hasn't always been possible to do that due to the scale of the miscollections and the unreliability of Biffa's performance at the moment, but it's something that we're constantly addressing and trying to improve, so I take on board that.
Councillor Allgood?
I'd like to raise Councillor Barrett's one missed collection by 3 consecutive recycles missed in a row, which was rather a few abusive calls, etc. So anyway, my point was, I had to request a new bin lid the other day. I did explain I am quite capable of fitting a new lid or even giving the brackets. Lo and behold, 2 days later, I'm very impressed with the service, I wasn't complaining about that, I get a brand new bin. I know somebody else who just had a dodgy lid and also got a brand new bin. So 2 parts is what happens to the old bins and why are we not replacing the lids?
We are aware that this is happening throughout the district, not on a large scale. So it has been flagged up with Biffa that their instruction and their mandate should be that you should have just got a new bin lid. It's especially, it's not cost effective. There's a shortage of new bins as well, and a delay in terms of the time it takes at the moment to order new bins and bring them in. So they're a scarce resource. So no way should Biffa just be issuing a new bin. Our instruction to them is if a bin's broken and can be repaired, that is the first course of action, and that if it's beyond repair, obviously a new bin. So I'll take that back and speak to the waste management team tomorrow, and that we are, like I said, we are aware that that's happened elsewhere, and we've raised that last week and asked Biffa to investigate what's going on. So once I know more, I'll feedback.
Does it actually mean the bins are refurbished once they go back to Biffa and come out again?
Yeah, if they're in a reasonable condition. If they're in a reasonable condition and can be refurbished, we wouldn't just get rid of them.
Okay.
You know?
Councillor Brooks?
Sorry, is that right? A big nightmare for you and Mr. Marsh and your other colleagues who are supervising the waste contract, and I just want to thank you because everyone I know thinks that you've tried really hard against all odds to try and get as many places picked up when they've missed it. Something that helped in the summer, given we're having a bit of a blip at the moment, is that you looked at the website and there was a list of which ones had been missed. Now I know it's hard to keep that up, but when I looked to report the missed one and recently last Thursday in our road, I couldn't see a list of missed collections on Friday morning when I looked.
It's there. It's on the front page. It's been trumped by the local plan. So the local plan's there. Disruption to bin collections is underneath, and Becky very efficiently and kindly updates it on a regular basis. So it's definitely there because Becky updated it prior to this meeting this evening, and that I think on the odd occasion one of the challenges we're facing is that, and this is where we ask for members to support us on this, and we don't really want it residents reporting. If members are aware that there's a road and street that's been missed and it's not on the list, please let us know, because there has been more than one occasion where a road is not on so that missed collection list is provided by BIFA and BIFA operators, and there is the odd occasion where we become aware that there's a road that's not on there, either through area waste officers doing their inspections or a resident calling in or from a member. So yeah, please continue to let us know, and we're trying to improve wherever we can.
Councillor Bassett, last question.
No, sorry, I'm okay at the moment.
Are you? You sure?
Yeah, I'll think of something if you want.
Well, I think we've talked that one through. The one thing I was going to add to that is there a time limit to when the bin has to be collected? Because people in rural areas do not like leaving the bags out for too long because of the foxes and things.
Yes, for want of a better phrase, in normal service, 48 hours. We say generally that if a bin once a miscollection has been reported, if it hasn't been collected within 48 hours, then take it in. But because of the scale, that's not always the rule, because if a collection's missed on Tuesday, it might take BIFA till the Saturday to clear it. So
do they clear on a Sunday?
They did this. Apparently, I've had reports today that BIFA were out on Sunday. I haven't verified that. I don't know. They don't usually work on a Sunday, but I have had reports on that. But definitely, they have catch-up days. Their catch-up days will be a Saturday and a Monday, because there's no collection on a Monday.
Thank you. Well, thanks, James. It's been a hard night for you tonight, all three of them. Thank you, committee. The next meeting will be the 16th of January. 7:30 people have asked for. Is that the full view of the meeting? I said, is that the full view of members of the meeting? Yes, no? Members would like 7:30. Sorry?
The meeting time is changed at the discretion of the chairman. So,
But if that's what they want, I'm quite happy.
it's at the discretion of the chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I close the meeting at 7 minutes past.